Nice happy tunes to take us into the weekend. Now, every Thursday, we always delve into our local history. I love this particular part of the show. But this week, do you know what? We're digging a little deeper, if you'll pardon the pun. Quite literally, underneath the car park at the Railway Inn over in Meols lies something potentially of massive significance to the area. And this is a biggie, this, believe me. To tell us more, Viking expert Professor Stephen Harding.
Yes, indeed, because under the car park is a very old vessel, which was discovered 80 years ago, actually, when workmen were working on this pub. And there's been all sorts of rumours about what this vessel might be. There's been some strong suggestions it might be a Viking vessel. And so there's been a lot of sort of pressure to try and do something about it. And this year, hopefully, we're going to expose it, get it dated, and find out what it is.
This is almost like scanning Loch Ness to find out what's there, and you've got a big massive scan underneath saying there is something there. It's exciting.
Indeed, we've done the radar, we've shown there is a vessel underneath there, but you can't just go in and expose it, because once archaeological wood's been exposed, it decays, bugs get in and all sorts of stuff. When it's deep under the ground, especially waterlogged ground, which is what it's in here, that's an ideal preservative. So right. It's to find where it is. So when we get it exposed, we'll get it dated and find out what it is, put all the clay back, and then decide what to do.
How did we know it was here?
Well, it was 80 years ago when the Railway Inn pub, there was some work. Basically, the old pub used to be right next to Birkenhead Road, and the brewery, I guess, decided let's have a new pub, and they built one behind the old pub, and then when that was built, they knocked down the old pub. And during that process, it was workmen that discovered this old clinker built, that means overlapping planks, vessel underneath the foundations. But the foreman told the workers to put it all back, because you don't want any delays.
Don't want to stop the job.
But the foreman did the best thing he could possibly do, because by putting all the clay back, it made sure. It was only years later when we found out that one of the workmen had made a sketch or some notes about the find and passed it on to his son, and his son passed it on to Liverpool Museums, and that's how we got to know about it. But we've done the radar to make sure it's still there, and it is.
I mean, you're a world authority on the Vikings. Why is this such a hotbed of history, Meols?
Well, don't forget, this boat might not be a Viking. We've got a good...
Of course,
it's got a chance, okay?
You're excited about that.
We're all excited, of course we are, absolutely. I'm a big Viking fan. No, because we're all, in fact, Merseyside and up the Lancashire coast was once a hotbed of Viking activity. And we know that from the historical records, which record a large group of Vikings that were expelled from the old Viking kingdom of Dublin, Norwegian Vikings, in the year AD 902, and how they came to the Queen of the English, Ethelfled, and fans of the Last Kingdom on BBC Two last year will know Ethelfled, how she had a propensity to fall in love with Norwegians, all this sort of thing. We don't think that actually happened, but Ingemund struck some deal with Ethelfled, and they were given permission to settle in lands around Wirral, and we know that from all the place names and everything else. It was around here. So yeah, Wirral was once a hotbed of activity, and Meols was the major seaport, because Meols is an old Viking name meaning really? Sandbank, sandhills. There's also a Meols or Meols near Southport.
That's Meols Cop, is it?
That's right, yeah.
So, if this turns out to be what you think it is, what happens then?
If it turns out to be what we hope it is. Let's see, whatever it is, it's going to be extremely interesting, because we know it's very old. It has to be old from its position in the blue clay. I mean, clinker-built overlapping plank boats have been built, still built now actually. You can still find them in lifeboats and things. But it was the Scandinavians that started this technique before the Vikings, actually, in a few hundred BC. They were starting to build these types of vessels. But the fact that it's here and it's very old.
So it's about 10, 12 foot long?
No, I think it's longer than that. It's about 7 or 10 yards long. So
really?
About 20, 30 feet, we think, from the dimensions that were drawn by the McRaes. He was the workman and his son who found it all those years ago, and the radar seems to suggest that. So it is a fairly long boat. We don't think it's a warship. It's probably some sort of transport vessel. But why it's here? We're 1 mile away from the coast here, and of course 1,000 years ago the coastline would have been different. But it's interesting to speculate how it got here, whether it was some sort of channels, or was it deliberately buried here, or was it wrecked? We don't know.
It's amazing, isn't it, to stand here on a very busy road, on an afternoon. The car park's really busy. But, they've dug kings up under car parks. Why not a Viking boat?
That's right. Yeah. So you can understandably, the brewery's very excited about this, and they can see the potential. But it's a potential for the whole area, the whole Merseyside. If it does turn out to be something that's interesting, that we can use.
If it was a Viking vessel, is there anything else like it in the UK?
No.
No.
There's been imprints of Viking vessels that have been found, but unless these old wooden vessels, when they're buried, are in blue clay, then they will just disintegrate. So the big Viking vessels in Norway that have been excavated, they were also in blue clay, the Osberg ship and the Gokstad ship. So we're very lucky in that regard, but it makes you wonder what else is underneath.
Of course.
Around here. But it's almost bizarre the way it's at the front entrance of the
As
pub.
if they just pulled in and said,
well,
let's
that's
go and have a
IKEA
drink.
came and you weren't in, so we'll just left it under the patio for you. When we do get the boat exposed, we'll make sure the public can have access.
Yeah.
Obviously not to come and take bits, but it'll be fenced off. But to be able to view it, local schools can come and see it during the few weeks when the work is being excavated. Because it's not just our boat, it's not just the brewery's boat, it's everyone's boat.
Wow.
And we'll get it. And then when we've done it, we'll make a little reconstruction. And so all these little ideas coming up.
Would it have been named?
It will be when we found it, actually.
I think we should call it the Professor Stephen Harding yourself.
I'll go for that.
Do you know what? What an exciting prospect if that is what Professor Stephen Harding and a lot more people think it is, and really excited about the whole project. So watch this space. Had a cracking afternoon with Professor Stephen, and we went further on over the Wirral to see more Viking sites. So that's going to be featured as well in future local history slots on your Thursday morning. Happy days, eh?